what you've done for me and you. Oh, I wanna get a lifetime of this, but I hope it won't take too long to confess to ourselves. We've had ourselves to blame for our love. Oh, I tried to hold you close, but you just left me. I need to find a way out from this hell by myself. I keep calling, but you won't seem to listen. I keep walking, but I can see you following. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Hey, yeah. I will leave and not come back anymore. Oh, 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 oh. You will feel the way you've been treating me. I keep calling, but you won't seem to listen. I keep calling, but you won't seem to listen. I keep walking, but I can see you following. I keep calling, but you won't seem to listen. I keep walking, but I can see you following.
Welcome. How is everybody? Hope you've had an awesome week. And no, I'm not a DJ, Catherine, but perhaps I look like one. Okay. So we're going to be starting in just under 3 minutes. I hope you've had an amazing week and you're looking forward to the weekend. So this is obviously my last live session of the week. So let's see who we've got here. I can see that, and some of you are here, most of you are here on Zoom, some of you are here on Facebook, some of you are here on where else? Some of you are here on YouTube. So is it Ruin? Is that right? From Cape Town in South Africa. He's on YouTube right now. Welcome to you. We have Tammy Gilbert's here from Peachland in Canada. Hi there. We have Lynn's here from Abbotsford. Robin's here from Moscow. Snow still thawing. We still keep getting the odd flurry here in Portugal. It's really, really weird, but I think we're getting towards the end of it. I think Sarah and I will be doing some sunbathing this weekend. We have Catherine's here from Mississauga, I'm never quite sure, in Canada. I can get that bit right. William Long's here from Ireland. Hi, William. Hope you're well. I've not done many sessions where William's not here in the last few weeks or months. So good to see you again. We have Alan Brown here from Margate. Hi, Alan. If you're just joining, I'm starting in about 90 seconds. Nancy's here from Atlanta in Georgia. We have Mike is from Cornwall. Hi there, Mike. If you are on YouTube or if you're on Facebook, just let me know so I can give you a shout out. Most of these are in Zoom at the moment. Lynn says, I don't see a tape on that calculator. No, but I do have a calculator. I might need it later. We'll see why. I haven't used a calculator for years. Renata is here. Hi there. We have Tom Lowe from Buxton in Derbyshire. We have Ren is here from Truro. Intermittent sun and hail. Okay, that's not so good. Well, the sun bit's good. Olga's here from Toronto. Jamal's here from London in the UK. We have Tracy from sunny Scotland, which is awesome. I'm just keeping an eye on the clock because it's almost on the hour. Okay, there's a Facebook user says, hey. If you're in the Facebook group, I have no idea who you are. So if you could, there'll be a link that my team will put in there. It's just a link for you to give permission for me to just see who you are. So please do that if you're in the Facebook group. Otherwise, I've got no idea. And Randall's here from Surrey, the other one. Yes, not the other Randall, the other Surrey. Not the Surrey, the UK, but the Surrey in Canada. Hi there, Randall. Thanks for the clarification on that. Okay, it is on the hour, so let's get started. We have 60 minutes together. If you've not been to one of these Friday sessions before, they're exactly 60 minutes. I will show you some stuff. We always have a theme. I'll show you some stuff to do with the effective pricing software, and then I answer questions, and typically it's 20 minutes of content, 30-40 minutes of me just answering your questions. So if you have questions, most of you know the drill. If you are on Zoom right now, ask your questions just in the Q&A box, not the chat box. So I'm going to just move that chat box out the way because it gets distracting for me. Q&A box for questions. If you are on the YouTube live, just put your questions in the comments on the live chat. And if you're on Facebook, same thing, put it in the comments. But if you are in the Facebook group, I won't know who you are and therefore won't see your questions. So please just click that link that Sarah's going to put. I think she's put it. Click on that link. It's just because Facebook needs you to give permission for me to be able to see who you are if you're making through the system I'm using. And I don't understand why, but Facebook asks you to do that in a Facebook group, but not on a Facebook page. It's weird. Okay. And I've got my team here. I've got Sarah, well, half my team here. Sarah's here, so she'll be checking all the different places to make sure you're all okay. I hope everything's good on Zoom. Sometimes we had it once this week and once last month where things get a bit blurry. And if that's the case, you will find that we have no problems with the picture quality on the various social sites. Right, that's all I need to say by way of introduction. So our theme today we're going to look at the payment plan. So if you've just let me know wherever you are, if you are completely new to these sessions and the software, just type new or newbie or something in the chat, in the comments. Just type that if you've never used the software before, just so I can see how many people here are real beginners. And I'll give you and there's quite a few people in the Facebook group who are completely new. I'll see a lot. So that Aliki is that, Vera, Lou, Lisa, Paul, Ashley, Alan, you're a newbie still. Okay, I know you come to a lot of the sessions. Nancy is just setting up the software, playing with it now. Catherine's a newbie. Tom's a newbie. William's building his first plan. Robin says no, so I guess that means no, you're not a newbie, or no, you've not using the software. Belinda, Beth, Renata's fairly new. Kingsley's fairly new. Finance Sense that's Ruan, isn't it? Finance Sense is new as well. Okay, so when I do these sessions, there's always a theme. And I know that I have a wide mix of people. Some of you are new, and there's also people who are just doing amazing things with the software. I know Rennie, for example, uses it extensively, and David Colts. By the way, David is going to be, I think, doing as a guest the next one. He's going to show some really cool stuff. And by the way, the next one isn't next Friday because it's Easter. So we won't have a session next Friday. The next session will be April 9th, if I've got that right. And we're going to have, I think we've got David as a guest showing how he's using the software and doing some really interesting stuff with keywords and the proposals and all sorts of stuff. So there's always a theme. And because I have a wide range of people from newbies to experience, what I will do is this one's a fairly intermediate to advanced session. So if you are a complete newbie, please do ask your questions in the Q&A box or in the comments. We will get to questions. So if anything I say doesn't make sense, please just ask. We did a beginner session 2 weeks ago, and you can catch up on the recording, where I walked through a checklist for getting started. It was a new resource we created 2 weeks ago. This particular resource has a number of checklists for how to create your account if you've not even done that, how to go through the onboarding process, how to create your first pricing model, how to create your first proposals, etc., etc., etc. There's about almost a dozen checklists in there that just walk you through with links to training videos and other things as well. So if you are completely new, Then two things, I'm going to give you some links in a second. Two things. That checklist is, let me put it in there. I'll put a link to that checklist in the chat box. Can I do it? Oh, I didn't. Oh, Sarah, you'll have to do that. Sorry, you'll have to do that in the Facebook group and YouTube because I didn't open up the appropriate thing. So if you haven't if you haven't got the software yet, go to effectivepricing.co.uk to go and check it out. The link is in the chat box. Sarah will put the links in the various other places as well. So if you are a beginner, a complete newbie, the next 20 minutes might get a bit confusing because it's an intermediate session, but it'll show you some cool stuff. And go and grab that checklist. Go and check out the website, and you can catch up on that beginner's session was 2 weeks ago. You can still watch the recording where I walk through the checklist and how to get everything set up. Okay, so with that said, let's get into today's session. Today's session was inspired by, I don't know if she's here or not, but Sharon Boying, who's been using the software. And she had some questions for me because she was doing some interesting things with the payment plan. And so and quite complex stuff. And so we had an exchange of correspondence where Sarah and I were trying to help her out to do what she did. In the end, she managed to get her proposal set up. And her proposal looked beautiful. This is not all of it, but there's just a few screenshots. She sent it through, just to say thank you for helping. And she came up with a genius idea for solving her particular complexity with the payment plan. So I'm going to show you what she did, which basically means you can do anything that you like in terms of structuring the payment plan. So what I'm going to do in this session, I'm going to walk through the process. And I'm going to, what I'm going to do is, now Sharon wants to know how to do some weird and wonderful things. Like in her case, the question was, she got a client, a brand new client where they needed bookkeeping. But I think she said there was something like 9 years of backlog. And she wanted to build it in. So I think it was so the client paid for most of the last 9 months over the course of the payment plan. And so it got quite complicated, but we came up with some interesting ideas together, and we'll look at those today. I'm actually going to use a different example, which is annual financial statements, which I know that's more appropriate to you if you're an accountant, CPA, but if you're a bookkeeper, everything I say will be equally applicable if you're pricing bookkeeping work. So let's think about if you're an accountant, CPA, imagine this situation. Brand new client comes to see you and they want you to do their end of year work, the end of year financial statements. And if you're a bookkeeper, by the way, same scenario, you've got a client wants to do bookkeeping, but they've got some catch up work, they're behind. So they come to see you and you sit down, you agree a price with them using the software. And I'll for those of you that are newbies, I'll just show you that in a second very quickly. But you explain what it is you do, you build up the value of your service, you go into the software, you agree a price. And for those of you that follow my advice, those of you in the Value Pricing Academy, one of the things I teach you, as you know, is that we are in the service industry, which means we should be paid before we finish the work, not afterwards. It's a crazy way that we've in the past as a profession. We do the work, we send out an invoice, and then we keep our fingers crossed that we might get paid inside our 30-day payment terms. And sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. That's crazy. We need to get paid in advance. But those people who I've been working with for years in the academy, what you've started doing now, what I teach, is that even if you're doing end of year work, so end of year annual financial statements, you should get paid every single month, not in arrears, but in advance. So that means if you've just finished this year, they now start paying you towards next year, so that in 12 months' time, when you do next year's work, you've been paid. It's great for cash flow. It means you don't have problems chasing money and chasing debts and stuff because you've collected the money. That's how it should be, because we're a service business. So, but what happens if you are doing that? And what happens if the client comes in, they're in a desperate rush, they want the annual financial statements doing, their financial year end is now, they're going to drop things off in the next month, and they want things done 2 or 3 months from now. And normally you'd want to be completely paid in the next 2 or 3 months and in monthly installments over 12 months. But the client wants the work done not in 12 months from now, but straight away. So how do we deal with that? So let me show you some thoughts within the software. So I just need to switch across, and I will also just put me there as well. So I'm going to go. So if you've never used the software before, you can use this to price anything. I've got a whole bunch of models set up on the left-hand side. I'm going to go into annual financial statements, and I'm going to have a client called Peter Rabbit, and we'll go through the process. So Peter wants me to do his annual financial statements. I've gone through and built up the value. We've just got to agree the price. And so I'll ask a series of scope questions like what's the size of his business? He's turning over just over $500,000. He's a bar, cafe, restaurant business. He's a sole proprietor and just him on his own. He's registered for sales tax. We ask him some preference questions of things that he might want and other scope questions. I'm not going to go through this in detail now because we do this on another session, talk about the process of pricing. But let's say we get to the stage where we can now remind the client, I can remind Peter of what my 3 different accounting options are, my bronze, silver, gold, if you like, but I've called them entry, full, and advanced. And I can, if I want, I can remind him of what's included and what's not included in the different packages. And I remember that Peter said to me he wants the middle option. He wants the full option, the full accounting. That's the one that best meets his needs. So Peter wants the full accounting the only thing to agree now is the price. So I hit the fixed price button and it's 12 payments of 617. Now, of course, it could be that at this point that price is too expensive for him, and as those of you who know the software, what you would do at this point is if the price is too high, we'd go back, hit the back button, and we'd look at some of those preferences again. The client might have said, for example, he wants the work done fast, or he wants to work with a senior partner, and we give him choices, and if it turns out the price is too high, we can just work with him to change the package. But let's imagine that Peter says, no, I'm happy with that with 617 a month. Okay, great. But then comes the bit where we say to the client, well, it's 12 payments of, and what we do is we always start the payments once we finish the work ready for next year. And I know you just said to me that you want everything doing in 3 months from now. So you want it all done by the end of June. So normally you would be paying a monthly amount, and you would then be all paid up by the end of June, and then in July we'd start the payments for your accounts for your March year end next year. Okay, the client understands that, we've built it up, we explained that, and so on. So we've got the price agreed, we've agreed in principle our payment terms, so we're going to hit that select button. We can, of course, at this stage do enhancements, upsells. We could offer other things. We could offer, for example, a goal review meeting. We could offer to do quarterly business strategy meetings, whatever you want to add into your model. So we could offer some upsells. I'm going to leave that for the moment. We're just going to go with 617 plus sales tax. I'm going to hit the save and continue. And then this is the last page that you need to be on in the software with the client. So you've agreed the price. We now just have to agree and have clarity over when they start paying you and so on. So we've expressed this as 12 payments of 617, and we're on the 26th of March right now. So the payment plan tells us that there will be a payment of 617 plus sales tax, which is 740 due 26th of March 21, then monthly payments thereafter, 11 monthly payments. That would be the default situation. But in this case, we might not want that. In this particular case, the client needs the work doing and finishing in 3 months. And so he needs to pay that sooner, and then needs to start paying for next year's as well. So let me walk you through first just this screen a bit more, the different settings available to you and what you can change. So with the payment plan, we can change the number of months the project will be spread across. I'll show you that in a second. Under that is sales tax. So you may or may not be adding sales tax on or not. If you are, of course, we always show the price. We agree the price before sales tax. And then what we do is we show the sales tax afterwards, just for clarification as to what needs to be paid. If, of course, there's no sales tax, we can turn that off. It will just be that the net and the gross will be 617. As you can perhaps see, or it may be that it's a different rate of sales tax. You would set up in your account and in your models what the default is for your country. So in the UK, and if you're VAT registered in the UK, you would set your account up to be 20%. And then for individual models, you can then choose whether there is VAT on that particular service or not. And that will always come up here, and you can override it. So if this service actually was, for some reason, a 10% service, then it would then change the payment plan accordingly. And we can now see that the gross is 678. So we can get the VAT or the sales tax or the GST, whatever you call it in your country. We can manage that because obviously that needs to be taken into account as part of the payment. So we agree the price first, then we agree the payments, and at that point we make it clear there's sales tax on top if appropriate. Okay, let's leave sales tax for now. We're done with that. So what else can we change? So the first thing is we can change the number of months it's spread across. So this is 617 per month, but normally an ongoing client would pay monthly. That's 617 per payment. This client wants it done all in the next 3 months. So what we could do is we could change this 12 to a 3. And what will happen as soon as I click out of there, it's now, although it's 617 a month, which if I use my calculator, I said I'd need to use a calculator, 617 times 12, so that's a 7,404 fee, and the client would need to pay that over the next 3 months, which it calculates at 3 payments of 2,468 plus sales tax. So we could do that. And then we can explain to the client that after the end of those 3 months, then they start paying 617 a month towards the following year. So we can do that. Now, of course, what you might be thinking and what you might be wanting is, yes, Mark, that's great, I get that. How do I do a proposal and a payment plan that shows the 3 months payments for this year and then next year showing us monthly payments of 617? Well, the way you should do it is do 2 separate proposals. One's for this year's work and one's for next year's work. So you could, if it was a brand new client, what you might want to do is do a price now for this year that wants doing and for next year, so you can get them to sign both agreements. The first agreement is set up to be 3 installments, in this case of 2,468, and in the second one you have a payment plan that kicks in not on the 26th of March, but on the 26th of June for then the normal of 617s. So you would do it as 2 separate proposals and 2 separate payment plans. But if you wanted to combine it into one payment plan, that's more challenging. There is a workaround. I'm going to share the workaround, and this was the genius of Sharon that figured this one out and shared it with me. But let's look at some other things that we might want to do. Let's look at another way some other ways that we could create some workarounds for this. So another thing that we could do is we could say to the client, and one of the things that I know a lot of firms I work with say is they would say, look, you've got to pay in full now for this year's work, the full 7,404, or in 3 installments. But let's imagine they want the work doing now. You've got to pay the full 7,000 now, and you've got to start paying towards next year. And so that can sometimes be a real cash flow issue, and that could be a deal breaker. The client agrees the price, but they just can't afford it because they can't afford to pay this year in one lump sum today, and the balance then, and then next year is starting today as well, or starting next month. And so what a lot of people do when they're transitioning their clients from paying in arrears in the past to paying up front is they say, but to help with cash flow, this is what we'll do for this first year. What we do is we let you actually spread this year's work in interest-free installments over the next 12 months. And you'll start paying for next year's as well. So that means that rather than having to pay 7,404 today, plus then 617 towards next year, you would only pay a total of 1,234. So they're paying for some catch-up. And so if you've got a situation where you've agreed a price, but there's some catch-up work. It could be with bookkeeping as well. You've agreed the price at 617 a month for bookkeeping work, but they need last year's doing as well. How can we do that without doing 2 separate quotes in the software and 2 proposals? 2 separate quotes is the best way of doing it, but it may be that you just want to do it all in one. So there's a number of ways that you could do it. One of the ways that you could do it is, and I think this is what Sharon originally tried to do, but didn't quite get the results she wanted. In the questions, I'm going to go back. One of the things you could do, and you may want to think of this if you're a bookkeeper and you regularly have situations where clients have more, you have some catch-up work, not clean-up work, because that's a different thing, some catch-up work. What Sharon did is you could make the very final question before you reveal the price. How many years of catch-up work are there? And by default, it might be 0. But if they put in if they put in, say, a 1, you could do a little table, and that would then double the price because it'd be 2 years worth to do. If there's 2 years behind, then that's 3 in total, so we'd increase the price by 200%. And we could build that into the question behind the scenes. So you could have a final question which just multiplies the price up. And that's one way of doing it. I think the problem with doing that is if I had that question in this particular model here, and I then got to this page, it would show, if it was 2 years needed doing, it would show 12 lots of 1,234, which becomes a bigger number and becomes more scary. So I think I'd go down the route of showing it's $617 a month for doing a year's worth of bookkeeping. Are you happy with that? Yes, I'm happy with that. Okay, but I know you're a year behind, so we need to fix that as well. And what we can do is we can let you spread that over the next 12 months. And of course, 12 lots of 600, I've done it on the calculator, is 7,404. So how could we build in to the payment plan, not 12 payments of 617, but 12 payments of 1,234? Well, we could have done that with a question, but the other thing that we could do is, and you may have forgotten this, it's a brand new feature of effective pricing. When you get to the upsell page, where you can offer other things, and you could say to the client, do you want an audit? Do you want an annual 5-year trends analysis report? You also have this box at the top that says additional options, which basically means you can add anything else in that you can think of on the fly. So one of the ways that you could do this, I could hit this, and I could put in here, so they just want the March 2021 accounts doing. I might type in March 2020 accounts. And then I would say I want to add an amount on, and I've used my calculator. I know that that's another extra 12 lots of 617, which is 7,404. And if I now hit the save button, that will now increase the price to the 1,234. We didn't freak them out on the previous page. We showed the monthly payments for that year's work, but now we're having this conversation because there's 2 years worth of work to do, and so we can do it as an additional option. And then if we go to the payment plan, we now have our payment plan showing what have I done here? Oh, sorry, that's because I changed all this as well. I was thinking it's 4,936, 12 payments. No, sorry, it's because I changed this. So we've got our 12 payments of 1,234. Okay, so that's one of the things that you can do. You can play around with the payment plan by changing this number here, the number of months it's paid over, and you could add in other past work, for example, either as a question or as an additional add-on. And that's the great thing about that extra button, that you can actually add anything on you want. Okay, what else? How are we doing for time? Okay, I've got lots more to cover. So let me hurry up because I want to pick a couple of things in particular. You've also got this advance payment and this final payment. What that means is that you can change your payment plan to add, if there's an upfront setup fee, for example, or you want something up front. It might be in this particular case. Let's imagine, brand new client, it's $617 a month, but they want this year's doing now, and then they've got to start paying for next year. And so you might say to them that normally you'd pay the full 7,404 up front. But what we're going to do is we're not going to charge you 7,404 and then 12 lots of 617. What we're going to do is ask you to pay a deposit of 3,000 towards this year's work. And so we could put, say, 3,000 in here. And what that will do is it will then work out and calculate the rest of the payments. So it would then be $3,000 plus sales tax now, and then for the next year, they'd pay 984. And then at the end of a year, they've caught up. And so it'll drop back to more like the 617 when we do year three's accounts with them. So that's what the advance payment does. We can do the same thing with the back end payment as well. We can have some of it paid at the end if you want. And what you can also do is it says it says included yes or no. In other words, that 3,000 is an advance payment. It's part of that price we've agreed of 12 lots of 1, 2, 3, 4. We just want part of that actually early. We want 3,000 early. But what if the client said as well, can you also sort out my tax return that needs doing? And you say, yes, we can do that. And rather than going into a separate pricing model, you just agree with the client, that's going to be 500. And so if he wants an extra thing doing, it's not in the price that's been agreed, but there's an extra thing we want doing, tax return 500, we can put that in. Let's put the 500 in, but now specify this as not included. And therefore it'll retain the payments for the annual financial statements of 3,000 plus 12 lots of 984, and then the 500 will now be extra added on top. If the 500 is marked as included, it would recalculate the monthly payments because it would be part of the price, but it's not. It's a no. And although it's called a final payment, with both the final and the advance payment, you are in control of what the actual date is. So it doesn't have to be the final payment. You can change the date if you want. You could make the final payment payable whenever date that you wanted. So you have some creativity around choosing the dates. So let me move on to something else. Let me just checking off that I've not missed anything. Yeah, let me pick up. I've got 3 more things to show you. So I'll try and go quick, but I can see there's not many questions come in, so that's good. Someone asked the other day, they put in a question to Sarah saying, Mark, what would be really cool is, and let me just reset this back to just these to 0 again, just for a second. They said, one of the things I've built into my model is I have a behavior reward. I give them a discount. I give them a discount if they agree to pay quarterly. Is there a way of setting it out as quarterly? And I thought about that, and I thought I'd come up with a genius moment, and I didn't quite. I was close. But let me show you how you can get to that closely, and then I'll show you how you can actually solve the problem. So let's say it's 12 payments of 1, 2, 3, 4. You've agreed the price at 1, 2, 3, 4, but that was after a discount of making it quarterly payments. So this is how you'd make it quarterly. You would change the 12. So rather than divide by 12, we divide by 4. And as I click out of there, so that will be 4 payments of 3,702. Now the problem with that is it'll do it as monthly payments, 4 monthly payments. But if we remember the 3,702, and you could do this will help with the conversation with the client. It won't in the proposal afterwards, but I'll show you a fix. But now we know it's 4 payments of 3,702. If the client says, yes, I'm happy with 4 quarterly payments of 3,702, we now actually change it to 2 payments. And then which is doubled it, as you can imagine. But we now remember, what was that number? Sorry, hang on a second. I can't multitask. What did I just say that number was? 3,702. So remember 3,702. If I now put 3,702 in here, and then 3,702, and it'll recalculate the other boxes, we now have effectively, as I click out of there, oops, that's because I've not clicked that, we now have 3,702. Okay, we have 3,702. And what we can then do is we can say, right, this first one is payable today. The second payment is not the 26th of March, but I want to change this out to the second payment to be 26th of June, and I want the last one to be 26th of December, and I can change that as well. Okay, it's almost a perfect answer. Let me just change it to December. The only problem with that, and you may be ahead of me on this one, if you're the only problem with that is the way the software works is because it's looking at the middle payments as monthly regular payments. It's going to take the first payment of 3,702 on the 26th of March, next one 26th of June, last one of 26th of December, but the 26th of September one, it won't calculate it as that date. It's going to take it as 30 days after the regular first payment. And as you know, we can print out a payment plan and let me just cancel that. We can print a payment plan that shows the quarterly payments. It's just that unfortunately one of those dates is the wrong date because it's adding a month on, not 30 days. There's no way around that with the way the software is done because it wasn't designed. It wasn't designed with that in mind. Okay, I just need to. So let me show you how you get around that. There's a workaround, and this is the last thing I'll show, and then. Now, yeah, I've just closed the software down. I knew I'd done that. Okay, let me just open up the software again. Won't be a second. Think about what questions you've got because I've got about 5 more minutes, and then we're going into Q&A. Okay, going to Q&A very, very soon. I just need to show you one more thing, and this gets complicated because I've got stuff all over the place, as you will soon see. So. What if you have got, so there's lots of flexibility with some creative thinking with the payment plan. There's things that you can do. You can have multiple years because you can, on the payment plan itself, you could use questions to add on back years. You could have that additional item in the enhancements bit. So with creativity, we can create some different payment plans. But there's always going to be restrictions because I know that I keep getting people come up with weird and wonderful things. And what I want the client to pay this amount on this date and then this over 6 months and then this over 3 months and whatever. And it gets really complicated. There is one way of getting around that and making it really, really simple outside of the software as a workaround. So what, if I can find the right thing. So what Sharon did, which was genius, she created what she did, and I've replicated it, is you could build the payment plan inside something like Excel, which is what I did just earlier. I just built this. And you can make it look pretty and do whatever you want. So you build a payment plan inside Excel. Because all you have to do in the meeting with the client with the software is agree the price, and you can talk through the payments. The purpose of the payment plan is to put into the proposal they sign afterwards. We want the proposal to have this perfect payment plan. So what we do is we can build it out in Excel like I've done here. So I've just replicated the one that Sharon did. And then what we do is we grab a screenshot of that. Really simple, grab a screenshot. So now what I'm going to do is, I wish I'd not closed that down, but never mind. If I hit, I'm going to do a quote again, annual financial statements, and so we'll have Peter Rabbit again. I won't bother with all the questions. So we ask our scope questions. We ask how good their record keeping is. Do they want things done fast, slow? Who do they want to look after their affairs? All that sort of stuff. We then agree the price. The client wants the middle one. It's a different number this time because I've just changed the answers. Okay, so it's 12 payments of 269. Client's really, really happy, but we want to do some weird and wonderful stuff with the payment plan. So what we would do is we'll explain to the client that they've got to pay this amount for this and this amount, and we'd agree that, and we could perhaps scribble notes and so on. But we want the payment plan to be just right and perfect when we get to the proposal. So once we've agreed the price with the client, once we've talked through how they pay us and so on, we're done with the client with the software, because at that stage we can just finalize things, and the last bit of the process is where you complete the quote. You do not do this in front of the client, and completing the quote means doing a pricing success metric and creating the proposal. So let's go into the proposal now. So Peter Rabbit's left. Peter Rabbit's gone. He's agreed the price. He's agreed this strange payment plan we've got because he's got a couple of years, he's got some catch-up work, he wants some extra things doing. We've agreed the payment plan. I now need to get it into the proposal. So we just pick our proposal template. Now I've happened to have I'm going to just pick a one-page one to keep things simple for now. I'm going to do a one-page payment plan. And I've just created one earlier called custom version. So if I open this up, need to give it a name. So as I start this proposal, I've got one here where I've set up my header, I've got my schedule of payments, and I've got my cancellation policy. Now, normally, if you go into the template for a payment plan, where it says effective pricing, you will probably have in that section the bit that automatically pulls through the payment plan from the software. So the payment plan is built into your proposal, is pulled in automatically. But If you want to do something more complicated, then that's not going to work. And so what you can do is replace, in this section of the proposal, you can replace it with an image. Now, by default, the image is effective pricing. When you see that, that's just an image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, and I just need to, let me just minimize, there we go. What I'm going to do is choose that screen grab that I did from the Excel spreadsheet. So I grabbed a screen grab from the Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to open that up into the software, and as that's now put that in, if I now hit save and continue so you can get to see a preview, it just takes a few seconds for it to come through. Here it is. Here's my nice, beautiful payment plan from within the software with my logo. It says proposal for Peter Rabbit, 26th of March, 2021. And it's pulled in all the right things from the software except the payment plan, because we've used Excel to create something that just meets our exact needs. So with a bit of creativity, and thinking, we can create our proposals to be perfect, our payment plans to be perfect. Most of the time, I guess 9 times out of 10, the software is going to make it's going to be simple because you have a simple payment plan. But just sometimes you might want something really, really complicated. So if it was the person who said, I want to give my client a discount for paying quarterly, you can do that. And you can use the payment plan the way I showed you to show the quantum of the quarterly payments. It's just that one of those dates wouldn't be right. So if you have that as a regular thing, what I would do is I would just have a nice little Excel or a spreadsheet, whatever system you use, Google Sheet or whatever, make a nice pretty one with quarterly payments. And then once the client's left, stick the numbers into the spreadsheet for the quarterly payments, grab a screenshot, and you saw it just takes seconds. It really just literally takes seconds to grab a screenshot and insert it into the right place into your proposal. Remember, this is inserting into the proposal for this client. It's not it's not changing my proposal template. Remember, once you've got a proposal template, when you use it to do a quote like I've just done, you can edit the proposal template to swap out something like a different image, to put in a payment plan like I did for that particular client. So this is the client's one with the payment plan. It won't impact on my template for the next client that I do. Okay, we're going to do questions now. Sorry that took a bit longer than normal, but I noticed that there weren't that many questions coming into the chat box. And now as I say that, they're all flooding in. Okay, so we have 23 minutes. I'm going to answer as many questions as possible. They don't have to be questions about the payment plan. They can be any question you like, within reason. So I'm going to start with Zoom and Jan, because she came in really early with a question. I can see in YouTube I've got Valerie as well. So Jan says, is there a way to force the package names and or the prices to go into 2 lines on the proposal and agreement templates? I'm using the smallest possible font, but they're very crowded. Also, any way to set the page margins? Jan, I don't know, is the simple, honest answer. I'm going to guess that regarding the first bit, in terms of the package names, so you've got the bronze, silver, gold. If you've got something like full accounting, entry accounting, premium accounting, what you're saying is you want them to be nicely on 2 lines. That might not be easy to do, but a workaround would be I think the workaround. I'd have to test this. Sarah, make a note. We'll test this out. I wonder if there is a way of doing it by actually making the headings in the proposal itself. Let me think about that. But also, the developers are starting work, I think end of next week, there's certainly soon, they're going to be starting work on the next development cycle. And the next development cycle is a whole bunch of improvements around proposals. So there's going to be a lot of stuff coming soon, some enhancements, some more flexibility with proposals that I'm really excited by. So Jan, it may well be that if we can't do that now, we can possibly fix that. Any way to set the page margins? Yes, that's one of the big things that's being done. So at the moment, page margins are you have a margin whether you like it or not. One of the things I've asked for, and they're going to come back to me they're doing their R&D on Monday, where they'll come back to me next week, tell me what can and can't be done, is I've asked them if they can do, based on feedback from users, on whether we can do it so the margins can be completely set how we want them, including zero margin. We can go right to the edge of the page. So yes, Jan, you will be able to do that. That's definitely in the near future, because that's definitely on the spec for the next version. Okay, Nancy says, I've not forgotten you, Valerie. Nancy says, do we have the ability to rename the final payment in the plan to additional payment so as not to confuse the client when presenting? Good question. No, you can't, Nancy, so you would probably want to do the workaround I've said if that's the case. Nobody's ever given me that feedback before about changing the name of final payment. So if that's something that you'd want to see, then send an email to Sarah with feedback. Say, I'd love it if the software did this. And then what we do is every time we get feedback, we stick it on a board, a development board we have in Trello. And then every 2 months when we do a development cycle, we send the development ideas off to the developers, and we figure out which ones are the most appropriate to build in. So please give that feedback to Sarah. Valerie said, I just bought the full plan. If I charge £60 per annum, i.e. £5 a month to prepare P11D, suppose as soon as I prepare P11D the client wants to leave, I would have earned only £5 for 1 month. Would I lose out? Valerie, that's a great question, which is obviously not to do with the software specifically, but what you need to do is when you create your proposals, your fixed price agreements, your engagement letters, you want to be really clear on the terms of the agreement. In fact, interestingly, I was reading it here. I was reading so the wording on this one I actually borrowed from the one Sharon kindly sent through when she'd done it. She got a cancellation policy. And what she says on hers is, either party may terminate this agreement at any time for any reason with 30 days written notice to the other party. It's understood that any unpaid services that are outstanding at the date of the termination are to be paid in full within 15 days from the date of termination. So, Valerie, you just need to be really clear about payment terms right up front with the client, and what happens if you should have a cancellation policy. And so if you're so Valerie, I suggested earlier that what we should be doing is being paid in advance. We should not be in a situation, we should not put ourselves in a situation where we do work and have not been paid. We're in the service industry. In the service industry, generally speaking, you get paid before you complete the work. You take your car into the garage to get serviced. When you go to pick it up, they won't give you the keys till you've written a check. You go to the dentist for a dental checkup, and when you go down to reception afterwards, they book the next appointment and you pay the check there and then. You don't leave and they send you an invoice. The service industry does not work like that. We get paid on completion or before the work even starts. Okay, so we shouldn't be in that situation. But another question I sometimes get, Valerie, is the other way around. What happens if someone's paying me monthly, let's say for year-end financial statements or a tax return that's going to be due in 6 months, and the client then leaves and they've paid me all this money and I haven't started the work yet? Do I have to pay it back? And the answer to that depends. It's up to you. It's up to you on what your policy is and what you build into your terms and conditions. Because you can keep the money if that's part of the terms and conditions and was agreed at the outset, because the way that I describe it, some people say to me, but Mark, if I'm doing year-end financial statements at the end of the year, what's the client paying me for? Well, let's not think about let's think about the client's paying you for access to you, the ability to pick up the phone if they have a problem, the ability to drop in for a meeting. They're paying to have access to you. And so it doesn't matter if the work's done at the back end. You can take the money monthly, and if the client chooses to leave early, they've had their access to you, and so you don't have to give them a refund if that's in your terms and conditions and the client agreed it up front. Okay, Valerie, I hope that helps on that particular one. David Colt says, is it possible to change the payment terms after completing the quote from within the proposal? Are there plans to add? And David, for those of you that don't know David, David comes up with genius ideas for a lot of the developments we do with the software come from David. And I think, David, we might have one of yours yes, one of yours is definitely going to be looked at as a spec for the next one, which I really liked. Are there plans to add that later? Is it possible to change the payment terms after completing the quote from within the proposal? No, I think what you'd have to do, you'd either have to clone the proposal or duplicate the proposal with fresh payment terms using an Excel spreadsheet and drag it in. That's the ultimate workaround. Or if you want, or the alternative is to actually clone the quote itself. Clone the quote as a version 2 quote, so it's exactly the same. Change the payment plan and then produce the proposal from the quote that you've done. So yes, I think you can do it, but it would be a case of redoing the quote, which I think would be the right thing to do anyway. If you edit or change the quote, you should edit the quote, not just the proposal. Otherwise, the two are out of sync. I hope that makes sense. By the way, we only have 3 more questions, so keep the questions coming in. We still have 15 minutes. Let me know what you want to know or show you in the software, anything that you like. Oh, David, this might be a part B, so I might have answered you wrong. David says, to be specific, can I change the number of payments at a later date after completing the quote? Okay, so I think my answer still stands there, that you wouldn't change the proposal, you'd change the quote itself. So you'd edit the quote or clone, duplicate the quote, and then just change the payment plan. I hope I've got that right, David. If not, come back to me and we can talk offline. Robert says, how do you vet potential clients? So I think that's a question that's actually got nothing to do with the software at all. That's about pre-qualification, I presume, Robert. So I will answer that, but let me just see what the next one is, because I want to keep the focus on anything to do with effective pricing first. The question is coming from someone. It says anonymous. I don't know who you are, but I've had a question which I actually don't know the answer to because I've never actually tested it. I don't know is the answer. I'll come on to you in a second, Robert. But someone said, using the June year-end scenario, can 2 years' fees be spread over 15 months, or is it 12 months the limit? Nobody's answered that question before. Nobody's asked that question, and I've never looked in the software. I've never changed that number 12 in the payment plan to 15. I think it would work the payment. I'm going to guess, and we'll have to check it, Robert. I think what will happen is you can put the 15 in, it'll show you the correct payments, but the payment plan, the automated template that comes out, will show the 12 payments. I think it stops on the 12 payments, so it wouldn't show payments 13, 14, and 15. And so the way you would get round that is when you then do the proposal for the client, is you would either have to then pull in a screenshot of a payment plan, or you would put it in the the payment plan. You might just add in the wording above the standard table that just says, this is the first 12 payments, and then you could manually put when the last one is. Because one of the things about the proposal is you create your templates, which means that when you create a proposal for a client, it's all filled in and ready, but you can change any page, any aspect of it. So you can add extra wording. Let me go back to Robert's question then, and then I think Cindy's got a question that I'll answer. So how do you vet potential clients? And then Robert came on to say, specifically, how do you assess their reliability to pay and truthfulness? Okay, so Robert, I'm guessing you're not in the Value Pricing Academy. I teach this a lot about how to pre-qualify that our people are right clients, and it's really important to do that. There's a number of different ways that you can pre-qualify. So one of the ways that you can pre-qualify is that you get people to complete a feedback form. I teach something in the Value Pricing Academy called the appointment generation system, where if someone wants to book a meeting with you, they do it perhaps on your website. It takes them to a page where they then ask some questions, and you then decide based on the way they answer the questions whether they're an ideal client or not, whether you want to meet with them. That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is to have a pre-meeting, which is on Zoom, which is a maximum of 15 minutes. And if you're in the Value Pricing Academy and the Bookkeepers Pricing Academy, I have a full detailed 12-step system coming your way very soon, where I'm going to walk you through this process, how to price a brand new client, the process you go through from pre-qualification right through to the pricing to the onboarding. Another way you can do it, Robert, and so asking questions or having an online short meeting first, where you might then want to ask questions to get to understand their ability to pay, their willingness to pay. So there's questions that we can ask. Another one, and the best one that a lot of people now in the Value Pricing Academy are doing is getting clients. The one I recommend is if the client then wants a proper meeting with you, they pay a fee. They pay an upfront fee. It's not a free initial consultation. The only free meeting might be the 15 minutes online, which is your chance just to get to know them and see if you're a good fit for each other. But if you are and they want to move forward, then they pay a fee for that meeting. There are lots of accountants now doing that. And that's the ultimate pre-qualifier, because if someone's willing to pay you a fee, then that means they are sufficiently serious about having a meeting with you and thinking about working with you. And you can always make that fee refundable if they then decide to hire you, and there's different ways of doing it. And then the final thing, Robert, on that is going back to what I've said several times. You should never start work for anybody until they've paid you first. You should always be upfront. Then you don't have this issue about collecting payments and stuff. When I was in practice, I started in 1996, so a long time ago now. Nearly 25 years ago. When I started in practice, I was hopeless for the first few years. I was so desperate to get clients. I didn't talk about payment terms or anything. I just I got the client, did the work, added up the hours, sent out the bill, kept my fingers crossed they might pay me. The number of times they never paid me was just crazy. So I changed my system after a few years of cash flow problems and not being paid. I changed my system to ask for money up front. And what I found is when I changed my system to ask for money up front, nobody objected to that. And I think it's because people expect it. It's the way that happens in the service industry. If I asked a lawyer to do some work, when you buy a house in the UK, you have to get sometimes you have to get a chartered surveyor in to do a survey of the house or a structural survey. And every time I've hired a surveyor, they've told me the price and said send them pay the fee and then they'll come round. They get the money first. And I don't question that, because to me that seems, well, I've got to pay them anyway, so why not pay them now, get it out the way, and then they come and do the work. And so that's just the norm in the service industry. So let's not get hung up about that. If clients aren't willing to pay you before they do the work, then they are probably going to be a problem client. Okay, we've gone off topic a bit, so apologies for that. But we've got some more questions coming in now. We've got 9 minutes, 4 more questions now. Cindy says, Mark, not related to effective, another one, not related to effective pricing, but videos. How often should one do live videos for it to be effective? Cindy, can we put that question off a bit? And the reason I say that is because, as you probably know, if you've been seeing my announcements lately, is I'm going to be doing a session in probably 2 or 3 weeks' time, all about how we in the profession can communicate better in this online world through webcams, through videos, through cameras, through webcams, how we can communicate better to get better results, how we can have things like better results from pricing meetings with prospects without having to have a meeting, without having to travel across the country. But I'm also going to be looking at all things, as part of that, all things online communication. So going live, doing webinars, and I've been collecting some feedback, Cindy, as you've probably seen in the Facebook group. So watch this space if that's okay. I'm going to leave the question there. If I've got time, I will answer it, Cindy, but I'm conscious I'm going to keep on topic if that's okay, because I've got 3 more questions. Sharon says, hi Mark, this is not related to pricing. Since it's tax season, can you share ideas on how to follow up with our previous tax clients through an email campaign? Okay, so that's not, since it's, I'm not sure I fully understand the question. Since it's tax season, can you share ideas on how to follow up with our previous tax clients through follow up? I'm not sure what you mean by follow up. Is it because you've sent the price, they've not come back to you and agreed it? I'm not quite sure, Sharon. I'm happy to answer that. I think you're in the Value Pricing Academy. So if you put it in the VPA Facebook group, then I'll have a think about it over the weekend and I'll get back to you with a little video. David says, can you share, or is there a list for the new functionality for the next round of software updates in the proposal software? I wish I could, David. I can't for definite, because this is the process. I go through all the feedback that people like you give me about the software. We have a Trello board. We list it all. And then when we get to the next sprint, so the next one's going to be on proposals, what happens is I then dig out all the ones I think fit within that theme that are appropriate, plus anything that's really urgent or really important or is going to have a huge impact. I send to the developers. They then go and do their R&D to see what work's involved. They tell us what the cost will be of those things, and then we say, do you know, David's thing's going to cost 50 grand. I'm not doing David, he'll have to wait. Or it might be David's thing's really easy, that's going to cost 500 quid. Right, we're definitely doing that one. And so we assess the impact of these things. What features will have the biggest impact on the biggest number of people within the budget every 2 months. So I don't know, David, what's going to be included. I think one of the ones that I really hope will be included, which I know Rennie Evans wants, is when you create proposals and you could create columns. So you might have a proposal where, a bit like a header and a footer, where you have your logo in the top left, you have the client's name in the far right, and you want your page number in the middle, where you can create those column things in different sections, which might be useful if, for example, you want to list your products and have an image for tax returns, an image for something else, and a description next to it. But you don't want the two columns to be split 50-50. You want it to be a different ratio of splitting it, so you can drag your columns. That's one of the things that's near the top of the list to be done, David. As soon as I've got it, I'll let you know. We'll probably know by the end of next week what's going into the next development sprint. Okay, let's move on to Jan says, I've had instances where the software seems to time out, but it isn't obvious until I try to save something. It would be helpful to know the timeout parameters, especially if I'm doing a live session with a prospect. Yeah, what happens is, and there's a reason for this, I think it's to do with security, because you've got sensitive information on there, clients' details, that if you haven't used it for a period of time, it logs you out, okay? But it's not necessarily obvious that you've done that. So it's something like 10 minutes or something like that. I can find out for you from the developers. Sarah, could you make a note to find out from Tom when it times out? Because I'm not quite sure. But I know, for example, it happens to me when I prepare for these sessions, and then half an hour later we go live, and then by the time I get to actually do it, I've suddenly realised it's logged me out and I have to log back in again. It is done for security reasons. There's a reason for it, but I'll find out, Jan, how long that is. Lynn's asked a question, which I think the answer again is no. Is there any way to sort the icon list in the same order as your menu list? I'm assuming, I think what you mean by that is over on the left-hand side. Is there a way to sort that? Do you know, I should know the answer to this one. I have a sneaky feeling there is, but it's that
just
long.
put in Mark.
Yeah, you probably know.
And point you in the right direction.
Yeah.
So if you go to menu manager.
Yeah, that's just what I was thinking. I was about to say no, you can't do it, Lynn, but then I started thinking yes, you can. I just haven't. Yeah. So you go into menu management. So this is behind the scenes, Lynn. When you go to menu management, this is where you can play around with the left-hand menu. So for those of you who have not used the software before, if I just go back to the home screen, normally you would open up in front of a client in a client meeting. And so what you want the client to see is you'll just pick the pricing model either from this list here in the middle of the screen or from the icons to the left. So if you want to price cloud setup, tax returns, you dive straight in and that's what the client sees. But behind the scenes is, which you wouldn't show the client, is your dashboard that shows your progress with pricing. And also the cogwheel icon is where you get to set everything up. And one of the things there is menu manager. I think there's a video on that, Lynn. It's a while ago since I recorded it, but there's all sorts of things you can do here. These little icons here are where you can move things. So I think, Lynn, that's what you're looking for. You can drag and move, and there's some other things you can do with the menu manager as well. Okay, let's move on. Can we change the default logout time on the software? So no, but going back to that previous question, Sarah, we can ask the question. We can ask if we can build that in, Catherine, because yeah, I think that's a great idea if it's easy to do. Okay, we have 2 minutes left. So there's nothing. Let me just. So I didn't understand yours, Sharon. I'm sorry, that's my fault. It's Friday afternoon, been a long week. So if you just put that in the Facebook group, the VPA Facebook group, and I will come back to you on that, Sharon. And Cindy, so very quickly, Cindy, given there's no other questions and we have 60 seconds, not related to effective pricing, but videos. How often should one do live videos for it to be effective? I think that depends on your definition of effective, what your goals are, what you're trying to achieve. But if you are doing live videos on, for example, Facebook, because you want to use it to build your followers and people find you, then the answer is the more the better, to be honest. The more the better. And I would suggest, aim for once a week, which I know might be scary, but what you'll find, and we'll talk about this a lot more, Cindy, when I've got lots of training coming your way for you. We're going to be doing lots of training on all things live, because there's a huge opportunity for the accounting profession for us to stand out and be different, because we're communicating in a more confident way in this online world, and the profession generally is not very good at communicating. So that's why we're going to do this training. It's one of the most important skills you can master. So Cindy, we'll get there. We'll answer it. I notice it is 5 o'clock here in Portugal, end of the day, end of the week. So thank you so much for coming along. I'm going to hit and roll out with some music in a second. And I always leave the chat box open for about 2 minutes, just in case any final questions come in or anything you need to know. So I won't close Zoom just yet. Just last thing to say, other than have a great weekend, my next live event for the BPA is I'm interviewing Aaron McLeish on Monday, same time as usual, and then a session for anybody on how to deal with overwhelm next Wednesday, March 31. So the next time you can catch up with me is I'll be teaching how to avoid overwhelm, and I'll answer general questions about anything as part of that session. David says heavy metal again. If you want that music, we can do that. But not for this. This is a bit more relaxing for a Friday afternoon. Okay, have an amazing weekend, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.
I wasted all my time, I wasted all my nights, I wasted it on someone who's indifferent. He didn't love me right, he told me I was blind, but I never really wanted to listen.